Welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. We will be discussing partners creating proven solutions. So I was recently with Andy Ellsworth, one of the territory managers, and we were doing the whole theme of his seminar series was pulling together, and we wanted to show how DAC works with other partners in the industry to create solutions, how within each product in the catalog, their ingredients are specifically chosen so that they team up well together. You know, you don't want two ingredients that are going to fight against each other, and better yet, let's have two ingredients that together individually are great and together they're champions. So that's what we will discuss tonight. We'll highlight again the GI Pro 3 for those that are new to that product. That's a new ingredient in some of the DAC products. It is completely, I'm blanking on the word. I've just lost the word. Only available in DAC supplements. There are no other supplement companies in the United States that will have access to the GI Pro 3. That is through the relationship between PHN, Kemin, and DAC. So before I get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about Performance Horse Nutrition, because that's one of the partnerships that you see the most. You see me, I do these webinars, I come to meetings and do trainings. So who is Performance Horse Nutrition? Originally founded in 2002 by Dr. Stephen Duran, and his mission was to advance the science of feeding horses. So take that super hard, sciencey, academic information and bring it to a level that everybody can understand, whether you're in 4-H, whether you're a veterinarian, whether you're a first-time horse owner or a 50th time horse owner, so that we can take that information and everybody can understand it, because that's really important. Dr. Stephen Duran, he's from Idaho. Some of you maybe have been at DAC days, or maybe you've seen him at a seminar. Did his undergraduate degree at the University of Idaho, and then his master's and PhD at the University of Kentucky. And if you ever meet him and get to talk to him, there are two things that he is very passionate about, and that is hunting and racehorses. And so his master's and PhD were focused on equine nutrition and how that pertains to exercise physiology. And he really lives and breathes the racing industry. But as we say, it doesn't matter what you do with the horse. It doesn't matter what tack you put on it, or how fast or slow it goes. The gastrointestinal tract of the horse is the same. So the basics are the same. Then the things we do with it and maybe the tweaks that we make to the feeding program are different. But anyway, that is Dr. Duran. You know me, I'm originally from Australia. I got a master's and PhD at Virginia Tech. My master's was in equine nutrition and growth, so focusing on that young growing horse from birth to weaning and through to yearling age. My PhD focused on equine nutrition and reproduction, and I was actually taking follicular aspiration, so sucking the fluid out of the follicles and looking at that and inspecting that, doing tests on that based on the different things that we were feeding horses. Could we actually alter that follicular environment? So where those eggs are developing, can we affect that environment with nutrition? And we know that yes, you can. So it's really important. The actual partnership between DAC and PHN started in 2010. So DAC sells supplements, and PHN, we don't really sell anything other than our nutritional expertise. When Randy bought the company, he wanted to not only be like every other supplement company, but to actually make sure that these are top quality supplements and they were going to provide the highest quality ingredients, technology, and always be striving to be moving forward. So PHN came to the picture. We're continually providing solutions. And I think the right-hand side speaks volumes. Look, I'm not 60 years old. DAC has been around for 40 years. Right there, that speaks volumes, doing the exact same thing year in, year out, 40 years doing the same thing. Now they've branched out a little bit. Now we've got deer supplements and um, we've got dog and cats, well, really dog supplements, but always the same. Vitamins and minerals for animals hasn't deviated. And then performance horse nutrition, 20 years of innovation. So a combined 60 years of experience. 60 years of experience. And I think that that is quite impressive. So before we get started on talking about solutions that we've come up with and the reason for those solutions, let's take a little quick trip back through the digestive system because that's absolutely critical in order to understand why we have certain supplements, why we've created certain ingredients, is that we understand the digestive system. So the stomach, very, very small in relation to the rest of the digestive system. Food can pass through the stomach in as short as 15 to 30 minutes. I don't like to feed any more than 3 to 5 pounds in a single meal, but that is primarily due to the small size of the stomach. In the wild, we have fight animals and flight animals, and the horse is a flight animal. So he's going to run away from his predators. He's got a long neck so that he can reach the ground, but he's also a grazing animal and he's continually grazing. And so the stomach has never evolved to be large because he was never meant to eat meals. And you think, okay, well, my horse doesn't live in the wild anymore and doesn't have to run away from predators, but his digestive system has not evolved to how we manage them. So as you manage horses and you think about trying to avoid digestive upset and all the different complications that come with keeping horses in stalls, we have to always think, how has the digestive system evolved? Small meals often, um, and that stems from their wild nature. So then we move to the small intestine, and the small intestine is a big, long, squiggly thing. It's like a garden hose. It's about 70 feet in length. Enzymatic digestion here. So in the stomach, we've got acid that is breaking down the food, and in the small intestine, we have enzymes. Again, we have a relatively short transit time or rate of passage, up to 3 to 4 hours, but usually as short as 30 to 40 minutes. And here we're going to use those enzymes to continue to break down those food particles so that they can be absorbed into the bloodstream and then in the form of either sugars, fats, lipids, and amino acids, which are your proteins, and your minerals. That's how those nutrients are going to be absorbed and dispersed in the bloodstream. Um, we do know that there's an enzyme called amylase. It's responsible for breaking down starch, your sugars, your starches that come from cereal grains like corn, oats, barley. And we know that there's only a small amount of amylase in the digestive system at any one time. And so, again, another reason why we don't feed large meals, because number one, they really weren't supposed to be digesting large quantities of starch. And if you do, it's going to float into the hindgut and cause all kinds of problems. From here on back, we call this the hindgut of the horse. So it starts with the cecum, and it's kind of hard to see in that picture, but that cecum is like a balloon, entry and exit point in the exact same place. So it's easy for gas to build up in that area. From here on back to the rectum of the horse, there's all kinds of microbes and bacteria and fungi and yeast and protozoa, all live organisms. But you can also see that the rate of passage now is significantly increased. Now we're looking at 7 hours just to get through this section, this yellow section. And that is because what we're primarily doing in the hindgut of the horse is breaking down fiber. And it takes time to break down fiber fully. And the poorer the quality, the more non-digestible fiber particles, the harder it is to break down and the longer that rate of passage. some byproducts of those bacteria when they break down that fiber is they actually create heat. So as we go into these cooler months, especially if you have older horses that struggle with maintaining their body temperature, make sure that we're feeding plenty of hay, plenty of fiber. This blue area, um, it's again, it can easily fill up with gas and twist and turn. Now we're looking at 35 to 65 hours of transit time or rate of passage. Much more volume area here. And this is where this hindgut is where we need any of these probiotics, prebiotics, gastric health supplements, these gut health supplements that are live. We need them to make it to the hindgut. We'll discuss that a little bit later, but that's where we really rely on a lot of technology when it comes to gut health supplements in horses, because we have to get through that acidic stomach, through the enzymes in the small intestine, and make it to the hindgut of the horse. Here we have the small colon, and really all we're doing now is absorbing any non-digested food, any moisture out of non-digested food material, forming fecal balls that will then be excreted. So I've talked continually about this microorganisms that live in the hindgut. So from the cecum through the large colon and small colon. Collectively, we call that the gut microbiome. It literally acts as another organ, just like the lungs or the heart, and it's like puppet strings. It can it can control the puppet, which is the body. There's a superhighway down your spinal cord where the bugs in your gut actually communicate with your brain and vice versa. So your brain can talk directly to the bugs in your gut, your dog's gut, into your horse's microbiome. When you crave sweet or salty foods, that is the bugs in your gut talking to your brain. Crazy? That is how it works. This gut microbiome, it's absolutely critical to keep it healthy. It plays a really important role in breaking down that fiber and continuing to harvest nutrients and extract energy. It stops the colonization or growth of bad bacteria, otherwise known as pathogens. And in doing that, it develops the immune system, right? 70% of your immune system starts in the gut. So it's absolutely critical that you keep the gut healthy. There was an old saying, no hoof, no horse, which is true. But before that, it's no gut, no horse. Because if you don't have a healthy gut, I guarantee you'll have poor quality hooves. And then if you don't have good quality hooves, you've got nothing to hold that giant body on. So the gut is absolutely critical. The microbiome is everywhere. We talk exclusively about the gut microbiome, but that microbiome in the gut actually gets populated from lots of different areas, from the soil, from the plants that the horses eat. But if you look at this graphic, I know it looks crazy, but ultimately what it's showing you is in the soil, on the leaves of plants, um, in the roots of plants, in different parts of a pig's digestive system, in a fish, in a chicken, in a cow, in the cow's digestive system, on the cow's udder. There are bacteria everywhere. The original microbiome research that was done was actually done in the soil microbiome. And there's extensive research looking at, even in humans, looking at women that um, were pregnant and clean stalls. This was in early Europe, and they did barn chores and clean stalls. Their babies were healthier because they had higher conveyance of that good bacteria than women that were pregnant and lived in a very sanitary environment in a city. So the microbiome is extensively studied, and it really is just a microbial community living in one location. Our location that we focus on with the DAC supplements is the gut microbiome. But there is a lung microbiome, there's a vaginal microbiome, there's microbiome everywhere, respiratory microbiome, it's everywhere. Oops. Now there are certain things that can affect the microbiome. The environment that you put the horse in, the lifestyle that it lives. Is it a racehorse that lives on a track and it's under all kinds of stress? dietary patterns, and also dietary change. So we all know that you don't make rapid feeding changes with horses, but one of the reasons that we don't do that is because those gut bugs, the microbiome, actually takes a full 21 days to adjust to new types of food. So dietary change, rapid dietary change, can really upset that microbiome. There are all kinds of good metabolites. That's things that those bugs make that then confer a health benefit to the horse. And when we have something like a rapid dietary change or a rapid environment change, or even an acidity in the hindgut for some reason, or colic, laminitis, those things could kill off some of those good bacteria that make those metabolites that support the horse. So then we see need for externally adding those to the diet. Oh, wow. I don't know what just happened. So one of the things that will happen in a horse that is stressed is we get this syndrome that we call leaky gut syndrome. So on the left-hand side of these pictures, what you're seeing is these kind of skin-colored square blocks or rectangular blocks with the pointy things on the top. They are cells that line the intestine. Up in the top part of the slide where we've got those yellow dots represent intestinal contents. Good bugs, bad bugs, food, either digested, not digested. That is where the intestinal contents is. Those pointy things are what we call villi, and really all they're doing is increasing the surface area so that we can have a lot more area that will absorb those nutrients. Now, those kind of triple bar things that are between the cells, they are called tight junctions, and they are like Velcros, and they keep the cells tightly stacked together. Because if you'll see right on the other side, we have a tiny, tiny little skin layer there, epithelial layer. Right below that, where those round disc things are, that's the bloodstream. So we have one layer of cells, this tiny microscopic thin layer like skin, and then we have the bloodstream on the other side. So in a healthy horse, the left-hand side is what it's supposed to look like. And then those good yellow dots that are fully digested or are meant to pass into the bloodstream go down, not between the cells, not between those rectangular things, but inside those rectangular things. They will diffuse through there and into the bloodstream. Now, in an unhealthy horse or a horse that has its microbiome is upset and stress. That stress could be from the excessive heat or rapid change in temperature or rapid change in feed or exercise or pregnancy or lactation or any number of other stresses in horses' lives. Those Velcros will fail. And now we have this open channel between the cells, which is not meant to be there. And that allows non-digested food particles to flow out of the intestinal contents and down between those cells and into the bloodstream. Now, if that happens, now we've got foreign materials, foreign bodies in the bloodstream. If I was in front of you, I would say, has anyone been stung by a bee? And you'd say, yes. And I would say, what happens? And you say, well, you get a bump where the little stinger is stuck in my skin. And that is called inflammation. And inflammation is good in small doses. Inflammation brings nutrients and blood and white blood cells to the area to get rid of or fight off whatever that invading foreign body is. Unfortunately, what happens, and that's just localized, and that's really healthy. What happens though when we have this issue of leaky gut is we have all kinds of pathogens and bacteria floating into the bloodstream. Now the blood goes everywhere. So now we have this toxic material floating from one end of your body to the other. Your body is now is on red alert, high alert, because there's all this foreign materials in the system and is trying to get rid of them. So we go into this overall whole body inflammation that can show us allergy-like symptoms. It's actually very rare for horses to show ingested allergies. Now, not as uncommon for horses to have what we call dermal or topical allergies, where a bee stings them or something touches the skin and that causes an allergic reaction, whether it's a fly spray that they don't like or some kind of spray. Um, or we have those inhaled allergens, like we have seasonal allergies in the spring and fall. Horses will suffer from those. But actual ingested food that causes an allergy, like soy or alfalfa, very, very rare for horses to be allergic to those ingredients. But what happens when you have, maybe your horse has got hives and you say, well, I am going to test this horse for allergies, you take him to the vet and you do an allergy panel and it lights up like a Christmas tree. You're like, oh my gosh, well, he's allergic to everything. How am I going to feed this horse? This is very difficult. Chances are they're not actually allergic to any of those things. They are allergic to life itself at that moment because their whole body is in this constant state of alert and trying to get rid of these foreign particles. So if we fix the gut, well, oftentimes those allergy symptoms will go away. So we start with forage. Forage, we know the hindgut is meant to digest fiber and forage. How much? Absolute bare minimum is 1% of the horse's body weight. Weight loss, so for a 1,000-pound horse, that'd be 10 pounds of forage. If you've got a fat horse, we're going to do about 1.2% of that fat body weight, and that will give us about 1.5% of their ideal body weight. So typically, most horses, I want them to eat between 1.5 to 2.5% of their body weight, 15 to 25 pounds of dry hay per day. Now, if your horse has access to pasture, know that pasture is only about 20% dry matter, dry forage. So they have to eat considerably more pasture in order to get that dry matter intake. Oh my gosh. Okay, so if forage is the most important part of the horse's diet, and I can't stress how many times I say absolutely important, hay and pasture is the most important dietary component. But what if I told you that horses are not able to digest fiber? Horses themselves are not able to digest fiber. What digests the fiber? It's the microbiome. It's that hindgut. So again, if you have an unhealthy hindgut, your horse is not going to be able to digest fiber as efficiently as a horse with a healthy hindgut. Hence why I say every horse every day should eat DDA. This is the daily maintenance supplement that is supporting that gut function, that hindgut function. Microbiome, we've discussed live microbes, bacteria, protozoa, fungi, and these are what ferment plant fiber. If you killed all of the bugs in your horse's whole body, like hardcore antibiotics for a long, long time, and it killed all the bugs, we would then need to repopulate with probiotics, live bugs that we know are good at digesting fiber in order to get them to be able to break down that hay again. So early research in horses on the gut microbiome witnessed, okay, so dietary changes could cause diarrhea and weight loss. Well, what is causing that? Then they realized that the health of the microbiome was important. It's the bugs that were causing the dietary change, affects the bugs, which cause the diarrhea. If they're not able to absorb the nutrients, then we see weight loss. So let's quickly go through the biotics. So first one we all know, antibiotics, right? Kill or destroy bacteria. Specifically kills broad classes of bacteria. Usually it comes in two forms, injectable or oral, veterinary prescription, necessary to fight certain disease. Oral antibiotics are usually what we use for killing intestinal bacteria. But now let's talk about the other biotics. And I need to change this graphic so it always starts with this orange center. We've got beneficial microbes. the microbiome living in the hindgut of the horse. And those bugs are there to improve digestion and absorption of fiber, other nutrients. They create metabolites. They stop the bad bugs, all the things that we've described that the microbiome does. But we also know that stress kills off a lot of these bugs, and so we need to do something about that. So we utilize ingredients called prebiotics or probiotics. Prebiotics, they're not live, and typically they're fibers or carbohydrates that will actually act as energy or food for the good bugs, right? So it's not only do you need to have the good bugs in your gut, but you need to feed them. So that's what a prebiotic is. And the prebiotic over something like hay is it's just super, super specialized. It's super digestible. So it's like an energy shot for those good bugs. Probiotics, on the other hand, they are actually other live microorganisms that we put into the gut to build the numbers of those beneficial microbes. Like I said, if you have a horse on antibiotics and you kill all the bugs, then we need to put more live bugs back in. They are called probiotics. But not only are you putting in the live bugs, but you're feeding the live bugs that early nutrition to keep them going. And I mentioned that when these good bugs are healthy and they're thriving and they're in high numbers, they actually produce metabolites or substances that also have a benefit to the host animal, in our case, the horse. So something like a B vitamin. B vitamins are created by the bugs in the hindgut. Biotin is a classic B vitamin. There's another ingredient called butyrate, butyric acid. The good bugs in the gut make butyric acid, and its goal is to feed those square cells, those intestinal cells. So we have plenty of butyric acid. We don't see a breakdown in those Velcros. But again, when we stress horses with all the stress we put them under, one of the first bacteria to die are the bugs that make butyrate, butyric acid. So what we do is then we know that, and we know that butyric acid is normally made by the horse, but if the bugs are struggling to make it, we will put it in to the diet, right? Unfortunately, so that's all well and good. Probiotics, by definition, have to be alive. There was a study. This was really a review study, and she looked at this Dr. Copper from Washington State University. She looked at a variety of literature from the industry and looked at some other studies and saw that there was a trend that these commercially available probiotic supplements were not meeting the label claim. Now, you've heard us talk about NASC all the time and how NASC really holds us to really high standards when it comes to something like zinc or copper. They test the products all the time. They make sure that what the label says is actually in the product. Probiotics are a lot harder to test for, and so there were a lot of supplements that did not show in testing what was written on the label. And so that got Dr. Duran and I thinking, okay, there is a hole here in the industry that we, as a partnership with DAC, selling supplements, and our team with Kemin, need to address. If we can address it, we need to change the way the industry works, and we need to address that. So we remember probiotics are live microorganisms, but there are certain things that can decrease the numbers, right? Manufacturing, transport, storage conditions. So in manufacturing, sometimes with pelleted products, we go through very high heat as it's being pressed through that die to form that shape, and that heat can kill those live microorganisms. Transporting, again, long distances, hot trucks can kill those microorganisms. Storage conditions. How long is it sitting on the shelf? What temperatures are they sitting through? Is it middle of winter in Wisconsin, or is it the middle of summer in Texas? So we developed, in conjunction with Kemin, an ingredient called GI Pro 3. And again, exclusive to only PHN customers. And DAC is the only supplement company that we work with. It's a probiotic. So it's going to also have a good health benefit to the horse, and it's going to help populate those good bacteria. It's a proprietary blend of 3 probiotic strains. And as I mentioned, only PHN and our clients have access to this. So the testing that we did on this product, the 3 main things that that other probiotics in the industry are struggling with are they're not testing to see if their probiotic is surviving through manufacturing. That was the first thing that we tested. So we tested it at 90 degrees Celsius, or that is 195 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot. That is the temperature that is even higher than typical pelleting. And the probiotics stay alive. What about acidic environments like the stomach? So we talked about the stomach and how hard it is to get through that really strong acidity. And the acidity in the stomach should, in a normal horse that's got plenty of grass to eat, should sit around a 4, with 7 being neutral. That's what water is, and 1 being super, super strong, and 9 being on the other end, and that's basic, like bleach or ammonia. What we have found, though, is that most horses in stable or domestic conditions that aren't continually grazing are under a bit of stress. The acidity in their stomach is usually a little lower than that normal. It's usually around 3. So we tested, will the GI Pro 3 last in acidic conditions for 30 minutes and at 60 minutes. Now remember, food passes through the stomach in as short as 15 to 30 minutes. So we're really covered on the stomach. Now what about shelf life? What is great about the GI Pro 3 is it's actually activated by acid. So the acid in the stomach helps us out because just sitting on the shelf, it's not active. It's not activated. It's live and it's encapsulated, but it's just sitting there minding its own business. You test it, it's going to stay fine. But once you put it into an acidic environment, then you're going to break down that outer coating so that by the time it gets to the hindgut, it's fully activated, exposed, and can have its targeted effect. So the GI Pro 3 itself has years of shelf life in pastes, powders, pellets, whatever. So we've shown through science and research, and we're actually going to come out with a kind of a validated certificate that we can put on these products as well, that it gets to the hindgut and it does. So, but what does it do when it gets there, right? It's great that it can get through the acidity and it gets storage and heat and all of that. But what is it going to do for me? It is going to inhibit the bacteria that cause certain diseases. So we're populating those good bacteria, but it's also going to inhibit bad bacteria that cause damage. So Clostridia, which causes diarrhea, Rhodococcus, Streptococcus, Salmonella. These are the bacteria that cause strangles, loose manure, diarrhea, lung issues, and dysbiosis just means unbalance. So unbalance in those hindgut bacteria. So GI Pro 3 is a true, real probiotic, which means it arrives to the target destination alive. And it has been proven that once it gets there, it will inhibit or kill bad bacteria, bad pathogens. Where is it? It's in the Rescue Aid paste and powder. 1 tube of Rescue Aid will give you a full dose of GI Pro 3, along with a full dose of Butapearl, 3 ounces of the Rescue Aid, will give you a full dose of GI Pro 3, a full dose of Butapearl, and the DDA. In 3 ounces of the DDA, you also get a full dose of the GI Pro 3. It is also in several other DAC products. And if you have the most recent catalog, the one with the 40 years on the front, and you skim through it, and if you don't have it, you know that you can get that off the website. There's a downloadable or a flip chart that you can look at online. And you look at the little logos underneath the product photos on each page, and you will see on some of them, you will see, maybe you'll see the Calci Powder Advanced, that's our calcium supplement. You'll see the PHN GI Pro 3. And in the supplements that are not listed on this slide, so anything other than the Rescue Aid or the Digestive Aid, we have it in at what we call a supportive level, right? It's not in the full therapeutic dose, but it's supportive. So Rescue Aid, paste, and powder. Also contains the Butapearl that we talked about, is the butyric acid and zinc. So I put this up and we talk about the partnerships. So I believe that the Rescue Aid now with the Butapearl and the GI Pro 3 is a partnership beyond measure. I mean, it is so strong, it is so powerful, that particular partnership. And the question has been raised, how long do we see a turnover in the gut? So remember we were talking about those breakdown and those velcros, those little lines, those tight junctions. When you're using Butapearl ZEQ or you're using the GI Pro 3 and they're rehealing, those cells that line, they have an 11-day turnaround, right? So they slough off and they regrow, and they slough off and they regrow. So we're really at max looking at 11 days. I've seen our digestive health supplements work a lot faster when we're looking at slowing down diarrhea or kind of moody behavior or not wanting to eat, so lack of appetite. We have seen in as little as a couple of days. Now, as far as fixing the gut, 11 days. If we're then looking at the symptom of that damaged gut, so something like allergies, it may take a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks longer for that whole body inflammation and the issues like allergies that have gone along with that to subside. But I wouldn't say more than 2 weeks. So with that, I'll take any questions.